There is no doubt that during the Victorian age, the people of Evesham enjoyed a very good standard of living and owed much to its enlightened town council, its squire and its hard-working businessmen.
Whenever folk speak of the Garden of England, there are those who would claim it for Kent. But we of the Vale discount such a tale. 'Tis this Eden we find heaven sent. Was it not here that the Virgin herself laid claim to the rich river soil? A bell tower stands where an abbey once stood, brought to ruin by rancour and greed. No longer there found the plain song sound, but still times of harvest and seed. Thus some there are say, in this very day, someone of the county of Kent, I was brought to this place, and now by God's grace, I believe Evesham's Vale heaven sent.
Evesham has witnessed many historic events over the years, far too many for us to mention during our time today. However, one such event we must mention is the royal wedding of Princess Louise of Orleans to Prince Charles of Bourbon in 1907, one of the finest royal gatherings of its time. Once owners of Wood Norton, the Orleans family were famous for entertaining their Bourbon relatives and various family members who included the royal families of several European countries. It is said that some of the visits were kept secret for political and private reasons, but many were made public knowledge and were of great interest to the country. In 1904, the Duke d'Orléans received his sister, Queen Marie-Emilie Louise, and her husband, King Carlos of Portugal. Their stay is reported as quick and short. King Carlos spent much of his time shooting on the estate with the Duke d'Orléans and other guests. The finest gathering of royalty at Wood Norton took place in November 1907 on the occasion of the marriage of Princess Louise of Orleans, the younger sister of the Duke d'Orléans, to Prince Charles of Bourbon. Many royal guests were invited, including King Alfonso of Spain, Queen Emilia of Portugal and the Grand Duke and Duchess Vladimir of Russia. Princess Henry of Battenberg represented the English royal family, and many other royals were at the wedding. The Duke d'Orléans had a large wooden chapel built for the wedding. However, it was discovered that the chapel had not been licensed for the wedding, so instead it took place in a little corrugated iron hut in Avon Street, Evesham, which served as the Roman Catholic Church of St Mary's. 1924 witnessed the wedding of Squire Rudge of Evesham. And in 1928, the more light-hearted public baby show in Abbey Park.
The park, and put that in 30 seconds. Right.
So now, from nostalgic pictures of our past, we move on to the present day with a look at some of the most beautiful and idyllic villages in the country. Overlooking the Vale of Evesham is the Cotswold outcrop of Bredon Hill, with its stunning views and ring of delightful villages: Ashton, Beckford, Overbury, Kemerton, Bredon, Eckington and the Combertons. One of the prettiest is Elmley Castle, with its charming main street and church, overlooked from the hill by the site of the castle, built in the 11th century by Robert d'Abiton. Winding country lanes lead us away from the hill towards the ever-present River Avon and Cropthorne, where this lovely village of half-timbered houses and delightful gardens cluster around the court and the manor. The church dates from 1100, with later additions, and the churchyard contains rare carved monuments and a Saxon cross. Crossing the Avon near Charlton over the Jubilee Bridge, we catch sight of the two mills at Fladbury, one at each end of the weir. One, however, is Cropthorne Mill, being just inside the parish boundary. This often painted mill is now a holiday residence, whilst Fladbury Mill, which used to generate electricity for the village, is now a private house. The church is mainly 12th to 14th century and contains wonderful brasses and stained glass depicting local historical events and family histories. The river is used by a thriving canoe club and winds past the local golf club, whilst many boats pass through the loch each year on their way to Evesham. To the north lie a closely linked group of villages called the Lenches, from the Saxon word chlenk, meaning high, flat ground. The lords of the manor would add their name to the village, thus forming Rouse-Lench, Church-Lench, Atch-Lench and Ab-Lench. As these villages stand on higher ground, they became important plum-growing areas, with many orchards still surviving to provide views for the famous Blossom Trail. Today, the Lenches retain a secretive feel, as well as half-timbered cottages, fine churches and the superb Rouse-Lench Court. Heading eastward around Evesham, we recross the Avon and its lush floodplains to the village of Offenham, centre of one of the main market gardening areas of the Vale. Greenhouses, flowers and salad crops surround this ancient village, which was once the main Worcester to London road when the river was fordable here. Today, a picturesque main street leads to a maypole, which is still used for traditional events. From the plain rise Cleeve Hill and Bennett's Hill, giving lovely views over this part of the Vale and the river. Cleeve Prior and the Littletons stand on this higher ground amidst agricultural land once owned by the Abbey. The Tithe Barn at Middle Littleton was once the Abbey's great barn and is now preserved for us all by the National Trust. We wind our way to the thriving village of Bretherton, picturesque and clustered around its square and church. The manor has been recently restored and, along with the neo-Gothic hall and renowned theatre barn at the Grange, forms a varied and interesting village. The Fleece pub has remained unchanged since the 18th century. Now owned by the National Trust, it holds an annual beer festival and asparagus auction.
950, 950, 10, 10, 10, 10, 1050, 1050, 10, 4, 1050, 1050, 4, 1050, 1050, 11, 11, 11, 1150, 1150, 1150, 1150, once, twice, sold. Do you want me to do a single round or double round?
Thank you.
You'll have to wait.
Between here and Evesham lies Badsea, a large village built around a central church and green. There are many large houses of varying age, providing an interesting profile of the village's development. The church still holds an 8 peal of bells, and the local blacksmith still plies his trade at the smithy. This once intensive area of cultivation leads us past the beautiful manor into Wickham-ford. Here, the tiny church dates from the 13th century and contains many wonderful carvings, including a magnificent monument to the Sandys family and a medieval 3-decker pulpit. Behind the altar rails is a memorial stone to Penelope Washington, whose grandfather was brother to George Washington's great-grandfather. Here is to be seen the arms of the Washington family, which is said to be the prototype of the Stars and Stripes of the United States of America. The beautiful manor nearby has a wonderful wealth of history, first mentioned in the Domesday Book of 1086. It was a grange for the Abbot of Evesham, whose monks built the lake and dovecot in the 12th century. As we head towards the Cotswolds, we come across the picturesque village of Broadway, with its famous high street and honey-coloured houses. The village is overlooked by Broadway Tower, which stands at the top of Fish Hill. Built on an ancient beacon site, the tower has had a colourful history. It was once a country retreat for pre-Raphaelite arts, notably the artist, designer, writer and craftsman William Morris. Today the tower houses exhibitions presenting its unusual past. Set in a beautiful country park, the views from the tower are breathtaking. Well, plenty there to whet your appetite, bringing us to the end of our journey through time, back to Evesham in the present day. Fortunately, many of the old half-timbered buildings and the fascinating history have been preserved by the National Heritage Trust and many local groups for us all to admire and enjoy. With Stratford-upon-Avon, Cheltenham, Broadway and the Cotswold Hills within a very short distance, Evesham is an ideal centre for tourism. The riverside town caters to all needs. There is so much to do and see, whether relaxing in green meadows, drinking tea in quaint side alleys or a romantic row down the lovely River Avon. I can promise you the local people will go out of their way to ensure your time in Evesham is both enjoyable and relaxing. Thank you very much. Thank you. Vine Street led past the Abbey Gateway into Murstow Green. Murstow Green was sometimes used as a campsite for visitors to the Abbey. Originally called Swine Street, the Victorians renamed it to Vine Street. The Mews was built to replace an old house. It became a grain merchant granary and stables. These were converted into the shops which you see here today. The vine referred to the grapes grown on the terrace slopes of Hampton, near to Evesham's chained ferry, one of the few of its kind in England. Until 1981, asparagus grew in the fields around the Mews. However, today, the fields are now the town's car park. This amazing roundhouse in the market square dates from around 1450. And another notable building is the town hall to the right here from around 1586, possibly made with stone from the abbey. In fact, it is believed that many of the old buildings in and around Evesham are made with the abbey stone. The town is an ideal place for all the family and is worth a visit no matter what time of year you come. There is always some enlightening cultural ritual going on in the Vale. But if you're like me and just want to relax, sit back and watch the world go by, why not take a leisurely, meandering boat trip down the River Avon? Cheers! With some of the most beautiful countryside in Britain and without doubt some of the finest architecture, it's hardly surprising that thousands of people of all ages visit Evesham and its surrounding villages every year. Well, we're coming to the end of our time here in Evesham. I do hope this journey will inspire you to want to come and visit the area and experience its delights for yourself. Any information you would like regarding where to stay and what to see is available from the Almonry Heritage Museum and the Tourist Information Centre. The number is on your screen now.